Okay, so why don't we call the meeting to order at 7:02, which isn't too bad, guys. Thank you very much. I believe everybody knows everybody. We usually do introductions. I don't see that on here. Review and revise agenda as may be advisable. So Howie is Howie, what are you a member of now? I forget.
I'm on the West River Board.
Okay, but you asked to come in to present for
VSBA resolution.
Right. So he's after new business. Do you have time to stay for everything, or would you like to try to see if we can move you up earlier?
I'm fine wherever. I got nothing going on tonight.
Okay. Well, you can enjoy the party with us.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has any revisions or additions or deletions to the agenda? Bill, everything you've got is good?
You can get rid of E. I use that as a standing slot in case I need to bring any contracts forward, but I do not have any for tonight.
Okay. Then hearing none, I'd like to move to the minutes of December 16th, 2020. You guys all got to stop moving on me. December 16th, 2020 meeting. It seems like years ago, but would somebody like to make a motion to accept and approve the minutes as submitted?
Mark Schauber, I'll make that motion.
Second. Al, you seconded that. So we have a motion second. Mark or Al, you got any comments, or are you all ready to vote?
Good.
Good.
Does anybody else have any comments? Hearing none. Peter, you all set? Okay. Then all in favor of approving the minutes of the December 16th, 2020 minutes, signify so by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Cool. Look at how quick we're moving along. We're 3 minutes at a time, 2 minutes. Old business, waiting study update. Mark, you have been serving in that committee, and Dan, you've done a lot of work on that for Marlboro. And Emily, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to weigh in too, or if you don't want to, that's also fine. But why don't we start with you, Doug?
I think we should probably start with Mark. I think he's read the most recent version, but essentially, Mark and I have been working with Dan and the Coalition for Vermont Student Equity to get something passed through the Senate and House through the last couple of weeks. And the Senate has passed a bill, which is now in the hands of the House. And we are hoping that they narrow the task force that they've started to focus on the implementation of the weights to just be about the weights. There was a lot of talk about, taking that task force that came out of the Senate and blowing it up and making it more of a, let's look at the entire ed funding formula. But as Dr. Tammy Colby gave the committee testimony, she said, if you go too wide, you're only going to go this deep, like an inch deep. So really the best thing for that task force, we think, as the coalition members, is to sort of narrow that focus and come back with, this is how best to implement the weighting. And there's a lot of pushback on that. And I think I'll push it to Mark for that part.
I'll
Get the
agree.
good part, Mark.
There's an awful lot of pushback on that one. The House Ed today has, I think, more or less finished up on a strike all amendment to S13. I have not read the version. Sorry, Doug, if I gave you the impression I had. I had not read the version that they had last discussed today, that they were, I believe, planning on voting on tomorrow at 9 or 9:30. My understanding is that while it may not be as narrow as the coalition would like, it does specify that the task force is to come up with a plan for implementation of the weights and not just study the entire education funding system. And since I haven't read it, I can't give you a whole lot of details. But like Doug said, we've been working really hard. Doug testified in front of House Ed, geez, is that a week ago now?
Wednesday. Yeah, last Wednesday. along with Winooski. And I have to say our lobbyist with the coalition is really amazing, and helps us get through those testimonies and helps us with information sharing, and gives us a sense of where people are, because Mark and I have jobs that we have to go to and can't be on top of every conversation that's going on the committees. But she flags things for us and is super helpful in that regard. But I think, we're probably steeped in this, Mark, so it's probably better for people to ask questions.
That's what I was about to say. I'll just quickly, the bill will go from House Ed to House Ways and Means, and then to House Appropriations, and then hopefully to the floor in the very near future. Emily probably can fill in anything that I've missed there, but we can take any questions that anybody has.
Are there any questions for Mark or Doug?
Can I just follow up, just quickly? Thank you both for being on top of that. I've been in a million other meetings today, and I, like you, Mark, I have not read the final version, but I have asked for a summary, and I think you summarized it as well as I could have. The only thing I would add is that there was a straw poll today coming out of education that surprised even me. It was 11-0 in support of the version that they are going to vote on tomorrow. So it does appear to me that many of the concerns that were expressed up to date have been addressed, and an 11-0 is a pretty strong vote. So I had a meeting. I actually have food in front of me. If I'm off my camera for a few minutes, it's because I'm putting food in my mouth because I'm trying to eat dinner, because I've been in meetings all day. But I'm pretty happy about an 11-0 coming out of the committee, because that was not how we went into today, I don't think. So thanks for everybody's work on it, and we'll look forward to what happens tomorrow. And the path is absolutely correct. It will go, I think it'll make only a very brief stop in appropriations. The challenge is that the vote doesn't happen until tomorrow. The official vote can't happen until tomorrow, because they need to give a 24-hour notice for a vote. And so the vote won't happen until tomorrow, which means it's a delay. But Ways and Means will take it up. The biggest concern, I would just say, continues to be moving this forward as soon as possible to make sure it gets back over to the Senate, because the Senate needs to have the time to look at it, to either concur or choose to send it to a committee of conference. So all of that takes time, and there's a deadline on adjournment. So hopefully we've met that deadline, and the Senate will be happy to take the bill up, and we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, Emily, is that it has to go to Ways and Means, and we're hoping that it's not going to get held up there.
First.
Yeah, then I believe the only other concern would be that kind of being changed or torpedoed in some way, but I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe not. I don't know. It could, but
I would just add to that, Doug, that Ways and Means has been looking at the bill, and as it came out of the Senate. They couldn't look at the bill that is coming out of education, because education was working on it even up to today. But they are staying very closely connected, knowing that they're going to get the bill. So that helps, and hopefully it'll get, it'll be able to move quickly through Ways and Means. And if anybody has any concerns about it, they should reach out to members of Ways and Means on that now, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be voted at 9:30 tomorrow morning out of education. It'll be sent to the notice calendar, and so it'll be in Ways and Means the next day, but they will start looking at it tomorrow.
Yeah, in my testimony, I mentioned the income tax structure that they want to look at, which is really coming from Ways and Means, I believe. That it's a totally noble pursuit, but it just is going to take so much longer to do that while the inequity exists. So I'm hoping that they understand that. And if anybody wants to write them and sort of reiterate that point, that would be helpful for Ways and Means.
And Emily, you can just shake your head, but it doesn't have to be unanimous to come out of the committee, does it?
No, it does not. And
So-
it's fairly, well, I don't want to say it's unusual, but this has been this bill has had plenty of ups and downs and challenges from beginning to end. So 11-0 was a surprise, to me, frankly, and that's a very strong vote, obviously. That's it, every member was there and every member supported the work they did today. Just quickly, you can go review all of I know you all probably know this, especially those of you who are immersed, but you can all go review the work that was done today, the conversations that happened, and the versions and side by sides and all of that are there. They're all on the website. So you should do that.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just say that the coalition has a website. It's cvtse.org. And we have a legislative page, which I update with links to all the videos from the different committees, and all the documents are listed. So it's all in one easy to access place if anybody's interested.
So Doug and Mark, thank you for your hard work on that. So I pat you on the back, but I can't. So this is a virtual pat on the back.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
I see somebody just joined us, Laura Sibilia. Okay, Laura, we just had an update on the waiting study. I don't know if you got to hear a lot of it or not. Did you have anything you want to throw out before we move on? Laura? Okay, I'm going to move on. Maybe her connection isn't great. Yeah, Mark.
Just one thing I want to add in so people are aware. We are going to try to get a floor amendment to suspend the excess spending threshold for fiscal year 22. I don't think there's a whole lot of chance it's going to pass, but we're going to try.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, go ahead, Al. I'm sorry.
I was just applauding. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, is there an applauding icon we can use? Find me a patting on the back icon. Stephanie, don't smile and don't laugh because you're up next. Oh, Laura, you got your hand up, or is that a clap? No, Laura's got her hand up. Other people are clapping. Good job, everybody. Laura, go ahead, Laura, if you want to talk. Oh, I like yours better, Al.
Did I unmute myself?
Yeah, you're good. Go speak now. If you ever hold your peace.
So I did not hear any of the commentary, and I can very, very vaguely hear you. I would just say that the coalition is being very active and really helpful. I think that the House is listening really hard. We had a really productive meeting today with leadership and saw some helpful actions take place in the House Education Committee. The bill is moving, S13 is moving into the House Ways and Means Committee. I think that we will definitely encounter some rough roads there, but perhaps I will be proven wrong. So I would just thank all of those, Mark in particular, who have been working with folks around the state and testifying. I think it has been really helpful to hear about the real stories. We've talked today about making sure that our rural and poor communities are given the same agency and allowed to make the same decisions that our wealthier and large districts have been making for 20 years. There has been a lot of concern about that as this bill has been discussed, concern about whether or not poor and rural districts would invest the funds appropriately if they were made available to them, which has been really difficult to listen to and not be offended by. But we know what we know, and I really want to believe that folks are listening hard and that we are going to see some positive change. This is not the time to to sit back and wait or watch. This is the time to stay engaged, to share personal stories, and to be in touch with, our delegation and the Ways and Means Committee, the Speaker, the Pro Tem. Most education issues are very, very difficult. They invoke a lot of emotion throughout the House. They affect every district differently. And so when your representatives do not hear from you, that is not helpful. If you want them to act in a certain way or vote in a certain way, it does not help them do that. There is great pressure and emotion around this issue. So I would encourage you to be respectful at the end of the year, but be clear and pay attention and communicate. And I think that's all I have to say, Richard. I don't know if there's any questions. And I apologize. I've been trying to get on, but I was having difficulty. So I did not hear what the previous folks had spoken to.
I think Emily advised that there was a straw poll of the Education Committee, and it was an 11-0 straw poll vote, which is very promising.
Yeah.
And then it's going to,
Yeah.
moves on to, they have to wait 24 hours, it moves on. And Doug and Mark kind of updated where the coalition was and what they did. So it sounded all positive. And,
Yeah.
Emily said the same thing you did, let people know and talk to people, on the finance committee or the, whatever that other committee was. I think that was kind of.
Ways and Means. So
I
Yeah.
think that was pretty much,
Yeah.
kind of drove it home. So are we all set?
I would just.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off, but I will just say I want to thank Emily for the work and listening that she did today, and I want to encourage folks to remember that when you have a position like Emily has, it is really difficult, and so it's important again to speak respectfully and pay attention and to share what you need and what you're thinking about with all of your representatives. It does not help them if you do not do so. So thank you all. And I'm gonna hang up. I apologize for being late. Is there a question? I'm sorry.
No, Laura.
No, that was just, if I could just say, thank you, Laura. That was just me saying thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Emily.
And we learned how to do virtual pats in the back. We gave Doug and Mark a pat on the back virtually, so we'll give Emily one.
They deserve it. 100%. They deserve 100 pats on the back.
So does Laura.
Okay, you can have one too. We can't see you. So
Okay, guys, I'm gonna hang up because my daughter's here and I can't really hear you that well. So thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Stephanie, it's now time for you.
All right, where's the round of applause, guys? No, I'm just kidding.
After you talk.
Yeah, I'm just teasing. So Bill had asked Jen and I to do a brief update on where we're at with Act 173, kind of a recap on why this is happening and what is happening with it. And just kind of do a recap with district management group recommendations, where we're at in our supervisory union and for equity across the supervisory union. So I felt like I should start with what is the Act 173 legislation and why might it be happening. So it is happening. It's going to be starting on July 1st, 2022, and it will be a phase in. And so how they're structuring that is with a funding formula, which is still a little bit of a mystery to us. So I was hoping the waiting study would have a little more info. But essentially what it does is it reduces the amount of money that's available for special education over time and has it based on your number of ADM, so number of students on your average daily membership. And so it will result in, like I said, less money over time. So we are working together to create systems that will help prevent the need for special education. We're working together to create in-district programs, regional collaboration, and find ways to reduce our special education costs while not shortchanging our students who are on IEPs. And we're also working to maximize the resources that we have so that we are catching students early before they need that specialized instruction. So it's the shift from reimbursement, which is what special ed is now, where I will say, I have these students, they need these services, here's how much money we need, to now having just X amount of dollars to do what we need to do. The aim of it is beautiful, and I want you to understand that even though the impact is tough in the beginning, the aim of it is to increase effectiveness of instruction, availability of instruction, and equity for all students who are struggling in Vermont schools. So I kind of think of it as a tail wag the dog. So there's not a lot of ways that the state can force general education to improve their practices. They have some, ways that they influence, but this is saying you're only going to have this much money, so you better have these good, robust systems. So that's what this approach or solution is. So even though it feels like it's punitive and we're not going to have as much money, it's actually causing beautiful work to happen. And my hope is that that's happening across all Vermont. Crucial for building multi-tiered systems of support. And Jen will be talking about that in a moment. Crucial for local comprehensive assessment systems, so catching students before they are struggling at a special education level, and having the consistency across the entire supervisory union. Sorry, I take a quick drink. And this impacts building these systems for all students. So it's improving practices, it's improving curriculum, it's thinking about things in a much better way that's more data-driven and scientific and responsive. So District Management Group and UVM did a study and had created these recommendations that led to these shifts in funding structures. And so our supervisory union was one of, I think, 12, but Bill, you can tell me if that's wrong. I think it's 12.
10.
10, okay, close. One of 10 supervisory unions in Vermont who did a comprehensive study. So over the last 4 years, we've been working to implement some of those recommendations. So they have kind of universal recommendations, and then they have supervisory union specific recommendations. So those include having highly skilled staff members provide instruction for students. That resulted in us really looking at where we were spending special education funds. So we thought about, who are our students, what are their needs, and who's teaching them, and who's teaching our most intensive needs students, who's teaching our kids who might have dyslexia, who's teaching our kids who have behavioral challenges. And we discovered, and DMG discovered, that we were over relying on paraeducators who are great, but didn't necessarily have the training to be able to make the instructional impacts that we want. So we followed District Management Group recommendations to work on restructuring how we think about paraeducators. So they are there for social, emotional, behavioral kind of support, or kids who are, at an intensive level. And the rest of the time, we're working on building system-wide approaches that make sure that when we identify a skills deficit for a student, that we then are figuring out who's a specialist or highly qualified teacher or person to provide those the instruction to fill the kind of skills gap. So you may have recalled some rumblings here and there about us kind of turning things on its head and reducing the number of paras we had. We also are following the intervention guide from District Management Group, which is that you have intervention in addition to general education instruction. And that means that if a student is struggling in, reading, writing, math, they're in their general education setting, getting that grade level content, and then they're pulled out of a different class that's not a core content class to get their instruction, to get the intervention, so it's in addition to rather than instead of. This as you can imagine, significantly impacts scheduling and increases the need for interventionists, special education, and teachers, principals, specials, everybody to be working together to make sure that the schedule allows for that. And so we've done a lot of work with each school around that, and they've done a great job. We are also creating an in-district program for elementary age students, and our intention is to launch for this fall. And that will be to broaden the continuum of what we can offer, so that we're not just, having a student who has a difficult time in class, kind of spilling out of the class too much, and then we have to send to a therapeutic placement. Instead, we'll say, we have a continuum, here's where it's housed. We're gonna offer the specialized instruction your child needs and get them what they need in our community. And that's the ultimate goal, is making sure those students know that they are our students, they're part of the community, there's nothing wrong with them. We are working to expand our system. So we also were recommended to have like a system-wide approach for improving or supporting positive behaviors. So you may recall from a few years ago, we put in the service plan and budget that we have a behavior specialist who oversees a lot of the kids who have struggled with learning. We also have a referral process. So if a teacher or principal or education support team is like, hey, we've got this kiddo, they're having a hard time, we'd like your input, that referral is filled out and the behavior specialist goes and checks in, does observations, interviews people, and provides some coaching or some solutions, but tries to work within the context of that school. They also are well aware of what I can offer at the supervisory union level. So if they think, hey, there's a good match over here, the behavior specialist might make a recommendation for either staffing changes or movement to a different school that has a more robust system, things like that. We also moved to what I call the case manager model. So with special education, you have like a procedural compliance side of things, which is all the paperwork and regulations and things you have to do in order to make sure you have your funding. And then the other, and legal processes. And then the other side is the instruction. So what we did is we separated out the procedural compliance from instruction so that the teachers who are providing instruction can master that instruction, focus all their energy on intervention and support of students. And then the case managers are focused solely on running meetings, completing paperwork. And so when a big change happens like this year with COVID, I had 3 people to talk to and teach all about how to do the paperwork instead of 10 or 15. So it worked much more efficiently, and it maximized the time that the teachers could be with students. So it was nice to see that in play. In addition to that, we're also doing a lot of regional collaborative work, and we're starting to make some great progress. So I'm on a steering committee with 3 other superintendents and an assistant superintendent, and we've created a request for proposal for a feasibility study to be done to see across, let me see how many, 3 counties and 10 school systems, ways that we may be able to work together. And we started all gung-ho Steffi style, which is like, let's do this. We can do a program here. We can do it there. What's the least? Do we have sprinklers? All those kinds of things. And then I think it was Zach McLaughlin and Bill finally got me to the point of understanding, like, we really do need to slow it down a tiny bit. You can do this, but let's get a little bit more information. So what we're hoping is by mid-May, we'll have hired a researcher or a group to conduct this study. And our attorney warns us, like, make sure you have enough parameters around it that you actually get what you're looking for. And it's not like I think it was Burlington Police Department or something had like a very expensive 8-pager. He kind of refers to that. So we put some parameters around it, and we're hoping that by mid-May we make a hire, and by October we have a solid plan for feasibility. Then we can start really pinning down where programs could be, if it is feasible to do, what they might be, how it impacts each of the other schools and SUs and counties. So that's a huge goal, and it's going super well and very, very exciting. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I think that might be like the really fast synopsis. Al, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if the overall pool of funding for special education has gone down, or if this is strictly a result of our loss of ADM, the decrease in special education funding for us.
Yeah, I think it's like a two-pronged kind of thing. I think that the funding formula is a reduction in a base cost, like it's census based. So there's like X amount that they're doing based on the previous 3 years, I think it is. Not quite sure yet which 3 years they're picking. I hope they don't pick a COVID year, but 3-year average. And then also the ADM and things like that. So we are, as always, Lori Garland is right on top of things. So she's pushing really hard to find out a little bit more from the state on any clues they might have as to exactly what that formula will look like. So we can make some more solid projections on, how it impacts us. So, but when Jen presents, you'll see really creative things we're doing to make sure that we are maximizing those resources, which overall does reduce special ed costs. So any other questions?
Thank you.
No problem. And sorry I talk so fast, guys.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, the regional collaborative research, Stephanie, is also under new business assigned. So we'll get a chance to, and that was actually sent in with the packet. So we'll get a chance to look at that, and you can weigh in on that too when we get to that if you have to, okay?
Perfect. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the
No problem.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
The next thing is Bill, approved continuous improvement plan, CIP 21-24.
Actually, we're not even there yet. Jen's got half of the other conversation.
Oh, well, Jen, you got about 3 minutes. Sorry.
I'm on it, Rich. I know you. I've been here before. So I think the highlights, I appreciate Stephanie laying out the bill and the work we've been doing. I think the highlights for us of talking about a true MTSS system is the collaboration. And so the work we've done with support from this board has been able to do professional development for all of our teachers, but then to have academic support teachers who are becoming the experts in the field and are pulling up classroom teachers as well in their expertise around literacy and math. And so we've been able to create this team that responds based on student need and comes in and is really working collaboratively with special education and with general education and bringing the service we are able to provide to children is even stronger than it was even a year ago. And I have learned so much, and in a short time have watched this team build all of us up. And so some of the exciting stuff, just to highlight in my 3 minutes, Rich, is that some of the stuff that's happened is Stephanie and I were able, 4 minutes, okay. So Stephanie and I were able to collaborate and, as an example, offer an intensive course over 8 half days this spring that was all on early literacy foundations with a professor from Bay State who teaches in reading specialists. So we have classroom teachers in there, we have AST in there, and we have special educators in there. So we're all working together to share this knowledge. So it's those pieces. I'm a little off script a bit, but those are the things that we've done collaboratively to build up the whole MTSS system. Things Stephanie had mentioned about Beth Merrill, being our behavior specialist, helping with social emotional learning, have dovetailed perfectly into the work when I put on my PBIS coordinator hat. We're bringing social emotional learning curriculum into the schools. So bringing things like Second Step in. So all of these are integrated, tied into professional development we're doing as an SU. And then thinking about that LCAS, which I encourage you, I know you are also very busy, but if you have time to go on the Windham Central website, there's a curriculum page now that was developed last summer that has our local comprehensive assessment system and has our scope and sequences. So that those are the foundations for all of this work. So the local comprehensive assessment system, the LCAS, talks about MTSS, talks about behavior, talks about academic management and how we like progress monitor and how like the role of special ed, the role of title/AST, and the role of general educators. And then we've created a data protocol. So like all of these pieces, the pieces of the principals, Stephanie's pieces with her specific special needs population, like all of these pieces are really gelling together. And Act 173 to me is just another piece that's going to make this even better. So like, and this last year, Stephanie and I were able to pilot an academic sport teacher who's also our special educator. So blending those worlds, and we're going to continue that model at another school and continue that model. So we're well prepared for this blend. And I think Stephanie said it best when she said, like, we are catching children before they fail. And that my goal is like, someone walks into school and is like, I'm worried about my kid. And we're like, yeah, no problem. We got this, and this already in place. And so like, I do want to give like credit to an incredible leadership team that's been part of this and flexible and responsive and focused on students. So that's my off script. How to do, Rich? 4 minutes, 3? Am I ahead of agenda? That would be
good.
Okay.
You got 2 more if you want to talk.
Okay. No, I think I'm good, but I'm glad to answer any questions. That was a pretty brief overview. So.
And just so people know, in the cabinet report, you know, both Stephanie and Jen had quite a bit of this information in there, not all of it, but so there is some place to review it too. And for Peter, for you, you can go refer to that if you want to for the minutes.
Sure.
Any questions for Jen? Jen, I'm really sorry too about cutting you off. I totally spaced that when I was with Stephanie. It was just like she took all my attention.
She does that, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You guys, is everybody all set? Okay, then now Bill, can I go to the CIP?
You can go to the CIP, brother, and
Cool.
we can say goodbye to Stephanie and Jen.
Well, do
and
they
let
want to stay? Do they want to stay about the collaborative research, Bill? Or are you all set?
I'm all set with that. Stephanie set me up for success.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jen and Stephanie.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good
Let
to
me
see
know if
all.
you have any questions anytime. You can email me or call.
Great job.
Thanks, guys.
Pats on the back for you guys too.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bill, go ahead with your CIP, sir.
So annually, we provide a CIP for the WCSU. This is our basically our guiding document. We were fortunate this year we can now create a 3-year CIP. So it allows us to create the foundation, and then it's a living document. And we work on this all year with our leadership team, which is the central office cabinet and the principals. And we develop it all year. We work on it. I mean, it is painstakingly, but it's good work because it is our guidance. And then that flows through to the schools, and the schools use that as an umbrella for their individual CIPs, which have all been approved at the individual school level. So this is the WCSU CIP for the next 3 years. And we will be continuing to work on it. But what I need for compliance sake is I need a motion to approve the WCSU 2021-2024 continuous improvement plan tonight.
So moved.
Seconded.
So Al, you move that? Okay, and Doug seconded it. Peter, are you good with that?
Got it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Al and Doug, you guys get first shot at discussion.
I would just say that this is an incredibly thorough continuous improvement plan, and yeah, appreciate all the hard work.
Yeah, my only comment is, you know, I've heard there's talk about pausing COVID money. I mean, I just saw this in the news from the legislature. It doesn't relate. ESSER is totally focused with CIP, right? And all the money from ESSER goes right to CIP. And could there be new money coming in that addresses anything in here, or is this that's just not even part of it? You're not even thinking that way.
No, I mean, if new money comes in, if we get access to money, we look to the CIP and say, what can we fund that we have as a strategy? What can we accelerate? What can we enhance? So this is our guiding document. I mean, that's why we work so hard on it.
I was just wondering if you'd heard anything, but
No, the money does flow directly to the SU. So I'm not worried at all about that other stuff.
It is a lot different than it used to be when it was like 2 pages total. So it, like you said, Doug and Al, it's very thorough and it's got a lot of good stuff in it. Are you guys, is there any other comments, questions, or are you ready to vote? I see head shaking no on comments and one head shaking yes to vote. So without further ado, all those in favor of the adopting the CIP, please signify so by saying aye.
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 Allison, are you all set?
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. Aye.
Okay. It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. So Bill, you've got a CIP.
Thank you very much, guys.
So we're going to move right into school district updates. So I'm going to go the way it's listed here. So Doug, you're up first, sir.
Okay, I had a list. I very smartly put it in front of my principal so I could catch everything because we haven't talked since December. So we approved our CIP last meeting. I know we just did the WCSU one, but we approved ours for 2021 to 2023. You guys heard about the waiting study. We've been actively involved in that, especially Dan, vice chair, and me, chair. We have a new middle school structure that's going to be taking place next year. Instead of 2 teachers in the 7th and 8th grade, we're going to be going to 3 subject areas of ELA, science, and math. And the current 7th, 8th grade teacher will be taking on math, and the 6th grade teacher will be teaching ELA and social studies. And then the principal is actually going to be going down and doing science. So that is going to be an awesome change to our middle school structure. So we're back to in-person Mondays this past week. We have all the way till 1 o'clock. And then we allowed, the board voted to allow the teachers restorative practice time, as well as PD and anti-racism work that they're doing from the 1 o'clock till I think 3 o'clock hour. But we are back until the end of the year with Monday through Friday. And then every meeting from here until probably a bond vote, we are meeting an hour in advance with Banwell Architects to talk about our building and how to move forward with some really must needed changes and a vote next year. I know Dan has been talking to Emily a lot about bonds, and I'm glad to have him doing that instead of me. And then we are looking, and this is a big one, I think, for everybody. We're looking for a PE teacher, and we've posted it. And I don't know, I haven't checked in with my principal in a while, and Bill, maybe you have an update, but we haven't gotten any bites on a PE teacher 2 days a week. And we want them to be also a coach and maybe in charge of some laughter stuff as well. So there's more employment beyond PE. And just, it's kind of hard we've had trouble keeping a PE teacher, but then also finding one on top of that. So we've had 2 PE teachers, I think, in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I met with your principal today, and we examined all the possible pairings with other PE teachers at other schools, and they're all matched up right now. So yeah. Wayne and I talked about some strategies for recruitment.
Okay, well, it's just, it's a concern for me. I didn't think it was going to be this hard, but it is. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Doug, comments? I don't know, you made Bill run away, Doug. Next one I got is Allison down in over in Stratton, just a little west of me.
Hi. And I apologize. I don't have like great signal right now, and I'm relegated to the attic because everybody's here. So since December, well, I think I told you guys back in October, we added 2 more positions to our school board. So that's really great. We've had a 5-member board, which has been super helpful. However, just this past February, our 2 most senior members who've been on the board for gosh, I think they said they had both been on for about 20 years each. They both stepped down. Well, one of them is up for re-election and he is not getting reelected. And Lorraine Weeks Newell has decided to pursue other things. So we are back down to a 3-member board. Our town meeting day is actually scheduled for next Tuesday. It will be in person and we are hoping to get at least 2 more folks to fill in those seats. So our entire board dynamic is going to be very different. I'm the only person who's been on the board before, and it'll all be new as of Tuesday. So that'll be really interesting to see. This past year, we've done a lot with residency with the help of Bill, who's done a lot for us. We actually had a residency case go all the way up to the AOE, and they supported, first it was Bill's decision and then we agreed with him and they supported us. So that was really encouraging for us. And then lately we have been working on connecting with other districts who are unmerged and non-operating. And so far we've found about 6 in the state. And we've been working on connecting with them. We're going to have some meetings, in the next couple months here, hopefully. The goal simply being, that we have, a few voices together. I mean, as you guys all know, a few voices together is a lot louder than one voice. And we do have some unique sort of circumstances that happen for us because we don't have any sort of a fixed underlying budget. And so we're just working on coordinating with them. And that's kind of what we are headed toward for the rest of the year, it looks like.
Thank you, Allison. Anybody, any questions, comments for Allison? Good luck at your meeting. Bill, you want to hit Windham and River Valleys for me?
Sure. Carolyn contacted me. She apologizes she couldn't be here tonight. Like Emily, she's been on Zoom since 7 a.m. and I think her brain was just literally at the end of its rope. And so she sends her apologies. I told her it was absolutely fine. I knew that we would have a quorum. Windham, Windham's doing great. Windham is getting prepared for next year. They've gotten some really active parent participation. They got a big influx of kindergartners coming in next year. So they have some really active parents that are excited about the school. Their principal was able to get a rural grant. So they're getting a new playground that will benefit the entire community, really making the school a community center. Both Beth and Carolyn were reelected, and so they got some consistency on their board. And they're just kind of navigating having a small school in a small town, but really engaging the community. And they have a very active populace that, when we have Zoom meetings for Windham, sometimes we'll have like 28 people, which is a lot of the population, which is great because it's a lot of input and a lot of feedback. And so they're rolling right along, and happy to support them and prepare for the future with Windham. River Valleys is preparing to engage in some long-term research project, very specific about that there are no decisions that are being contemplated. They simply are doing their due diligence to investigate what are some possible scenarios for the future. So I am leading that work along with our director of operations, and River Valleys will be having a retreat this summer to look at the findings of that research project and then see where they want to go from there. They are 5 days a week in person. Families are very excited. Teachers are excited. Just kind of that rebirth of a sense of typical school and how to, enjoy the spring and move forward. They're having their annual meeting on May 22nd in person, which is exciting. They are kind of like what Allison was referring to with the unique situation for budgeting with the non-operating, because River Valleys is a school choice from 7th to 12th. They had a large influx of families coming this year, which is exciting in elementary school, but is challenging in secondary because you got to pay for them before you get the money for them. And so the school board is looking at a 13 to 16% increase year over year. And we'll have the opportunity to explain that to the voters in person on May 22nd. Because it's going to take some explaining as to how those budgets work, especially because we have a lot of new members of the community. Matt and Tammy continue, the two principals of Wardsboro and Dover, continue to collaborate, looking for every opportunity to prepare curriculum, to coordinate library, to coordinate field trips, to accelerate any enhancement they can as a partnership, as well as focusing on their individual focuses of STEAM at Wardsboro and IB at Dover. So River Valley's looking smooth, looking solid, and looking to the future.
Thank you, Bill, for both those updates. Al, can you want to do West River?
Yeah, sure. So we had our last meeting on April 12th, which seems like a million years ago. And we were just coming off the heels of a overwhelming budget vote in favor. We held very well for the year, and definitely would appreciate, Mark, if you could potentially drop that even more with the threshold. That would be fantastic. Do what you can. Doug, I would say similar to you, we're having some challenges with getting people. So we are now missing a clerk and a treasurer, but hopefully they will be appointed during our May 17th meeting. But we did also, Drew Hazelton came back to the board for the at-large position, 1 year out of a 3-year position, and actually will be an integral part of what is really important for us over the next 6 months, which is long-term planning. At our last meeting, we appointed a subcommittee for long-term planning. They're going to be setting up meetings, kind of corresponding with our regular meetings. So many meetings over the next 6 months in order to kind of drill down on long-term planning, get out in the community, find out what people want. And yeah, so very excited about that. And yeah, a lot of work, but I think we're on a good path coming off of this last budget. We're in a much better spot. And yeah, I think funding in one form or another is on the way. So it definitely opens up paths and avenues for our long-term planning committee. And of course, I'd be foolish not to say that just coming off of the April vacation, we are now back to 4 days at the high school and 5 days a week at the elementary schools. So very exciting. I know my sons are very excited. So very happy.
Be back in school?
They are back in school. It's weird for me being at home though. You know, like I'm going to be all alone for 4 days a week. It's weird.
Yeah, you don't look too upset.
Crank the radio. That's it from the West River Education District.
Thank you, Al. So the reason I asked Bill to do River Valleys is I don't want to talk a lot, but I want to just take a couple minutes, and most of y'all know because you're board chairs, but just so that it's on the record. Since really the beginning of this school year with the pandemic, we've been having executive committee meetings of the supervisory union. And I forgot to invite Emily because she was so busy, I didn't want to bother her. But Emily attends most of them when she can. And, you know, between Al, Doug, myself, Allison, and usually Beth from up in Windham, we've had some really good meetings. You know, we get good attendance. We were able to get weekly updates, you know, on what was going on with COVID. It didn't want to create extra meetings for Bill, but Bill actually appreciates them. And I was actually volunteering to stop it so he didn't have to. And Bill requested we continue to do it. I think he likes Thursday morning tea with me. So it's worked out really well. And Bill, I just want to thank you publicly because I think it's been really good. So we've always had the newest updates on where things are going. We've had some board members, some board chairs have some maybe difficult situations that we've been able to discuss and offer help with it and advice and support. So it's almost like a school board chair crisis committee meeting every week. But Bill, thank you, and everybody who attends, thank you. Sometimes we have a lot of fun. Doug shows us the latest cars he's building with his kids out of Legos or something, and but it's a really good. It's been really good, and I guess we'll probably continue it through the end of the year. But a lot of good things have come out of that too that we're going to be bringing up to tonight and at other meetings. So Bill and all those that participate, thank you very much. So if everybody's all set with the district updates, if I didn't miss anything, let's move on to financial review. So Bill, is I see we have financials and we have the audit from the CPA or the accountant. Is that what you want to review, or is there something else?
No, so I wanted to provide, Lori's on vacation, but she wanted to make sure that she provided all of that information as soon as she got it. But what she wanted me to make sure that she pointed out, so I put it at the front of all of those documents, was the letter that Lori, as the CFO, sent in response to the management letter from the auditors. As you all are unbelievably familiar with audits over the years, the management letter is the important thing to pay attention to. And so if you read the management letter and then you read Lori's response, the underlying reality is that the tightness and the narrowness of the comments that are made about the audit are incredibly indicative of the work that your CFO is doing for your organization. And so she wanted me to make sure that I pointed out that letter because in her mind, it gives you guys an idea of what is going on. But in my mind, it gives you guys an idea of the service that you are paying for and the service that you are receiving.
So, I'd like to just say one thing to kind of go along with that. When I first got on the Dover School Board, we had like a 25-page management letter from the accounting firm, and it was Sullivan and Powers.
Yep.
And so we worked really hard that first year I was chairman to take care and respond to everything they had requested. And some of it made some people very ugly because we made the town treasurer have to do a booklet on how to do stuff and back up. But we worked really hard and we had everything covered. And I'm like really thinking, oh, great, I can't wait to see this management report letter. Well, we got like 10 pages the following year, stuff that we've been doing for years, but it's sort of like, it almost seemed like the accounting firm needs to have something in their letter to find wrong, or they feel like they haven't done their job. So, I mean, to have, just because there is any concerns they have, to me, it's not a bad thing. It's just bringing up some points, and that I think that they really go out of their way to try to find something. So to have such a small amount of items, I think is a real, again, we can give Lori one of those pats on the back, the virtual ones. And I think Bill, you should really express to her from us that we appreciate it and it was a job well done.
I will. Thank you, guys. I just want to say that over the years, this is our 5th year working together. You've always supported the business office at the WCSU. We've had changes every single year, always trying to evolve. And under Lori's leadership, you guys really have an unbelievably high functioning business office that a lot of people don't get to see. A lot of that happens in the background. But you guys have made good investments and good support. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. So if we're all set with that, then Bill, this regional collaborative research, so there's some documents there. It says approved chair to sign, but I didn't see anything to sign.
There isn't. So I'm going to get something in between now and June 16th that I need permission from the board chair to sign, and you're going to be signing for the feasibility study. So
That's the RFP that you submitted.
exactly. And so all the money that we are contributing is coming from the ESSER funds, which is fantastic. It's a perfect approach, dealing with the immediacy of the pandemic and then looking to the future. So we've set aside $50,000, all the SUs have, to do a feasibility study, seed year one preparations so that we have startup capital. So I will bring back each stage. As Stephanie said, our attorney has encouraged us to do things in stages. So the first stage is the feasibility study for a researcher, and I need a motion from the WCSU board to allow the chair to sign for paying for a feasibility study to be done.
So moved.
So not to do the RFP, but to do the,
For the feasibility study. We did the RFP, all of us internally, but
Okay.
once the RFP is responded and we have to pay for it, I need your signature to allow me to release the funds.
up to $50,000.
Up to $50,000.
Okay, Al, go ahead, sir.
So moved.
Okay,
I'll
do we have a second? Mark, you seconded that. Before we move on, Peter, are you okay with that motion? Do you need it repeated? You're good. Okay, so the motion is to spend up to $50,000 to do the study once they get their RFPs back. We have a motion by Al, second by Mark. Do you guys have any comments, or would you like you guys get first dibs at speaking about it?
Nope.
Okay, I see two shakes of the head. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, are you all ready to vote? If you are, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. So Bill, get that, and I have permission to sign it for you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, so the next item was this financial questionnaire that we're supposed to do every year, but I really never read it. I mean, I read it to answer the questions, but it almost looks like, Bill, this is something that you guys are supposed to do, and then we sign it, because it says, as an official of the SU board, I certify that the board has reviewed this questionnaire within 2 months of receiving it from the superintendent.
So I'm showing it to you now, and then you're going to get it in June and it'll be completed. And then you're going to sign off on it, and it'll make June very, very quick. So
Okay.
I'm trying to prep you.
So this is a really good form, and you know, if there's nothing else, one of our big jobs is to review the financial. Oh, go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, we get one for the WCSU, but we also get it for individual districts, right, Bill?
Yes, you'll get that either in May or June.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know if you were on that, if I had to request it. Thanks.
We got it.
No, and that's so you're going to do two of them, but really look at it, because this is really helps you understand. I mean, there's some questions in here that, you know, just blow me away. You know, have you experienced a theft or embezzlement during the last 5 years? I would be so embarrassed if we had to answer that for either one. And then, have you borrowed money from the school district? You know, all those who borrowed money from the school district, say aye. You know,
Rich, I'm just going to say, I know I'm talking out of turn, but it happened, and my neighbor just did it and is now arrested in New York City for it. So,
are you serious? You guys?
You guys got not tomorrow to the democracy prep. Anyway, so maybe don't joke up. It's a little sensitive here right
sorry,
now.
Doug. I did not know that. I mean,
yeah, you got to read the news, man. It's out there.
I can't afford the newspaper anymore. Remember, I'm retired. Okay, so Bill, we'll move on that. There's no action now. No contracts. The calendar is dictated by statute in coordination with the Career Center.
So this is the WCSU base calendar. You know, each district will take this calendar and might make small changes, but you can't change the beginning of the year. You can't really change the end of the year. You can't change the major holidays. But for example, like West River, for the last few years, pre-COVID, commits I think it's the second or the third Wednesday is a half day for professional development collaboration among the teachers. And I know that Marlboro is doing something very similar in their calendar next year, but this is the base calendar, and then individual districts get to adjust based on their individual contracts.
But you still want a motion to approve?
I want a motion to approve the Windham Central Supervisory Union 2021-2022 calendar. As long as you say WCSU calendar, it allows each individual district to do whatever modification they choose to do.
Okay, so can I have a motion to that effect, please? Okay, thank you, Mark. Do I have a second?
Emily was second.
Okay, sorry, Joe. Emily got to you first. She's quicker. She's practiced Zoom a
I'm
lot.
on Zoom all day long.
So we have a motion to second. Mark and Emily, you get first dibs if you have any comments or discussion. No, anybody else? Are you ready to vote? If you are, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it, so that you've got a calendar for next year, Bill. Congratulations. A special ed request. This came from Marlboro, and this was brought to the executive committee because Marlboro needed to make a commitment to make some commitments before our WCSU meeting. So we did discuss this at the executive committee, and the executive committee recommends that you approve this request. When we were doing our Act 173 update and how we were going to fund stuff, we changed the way that we said that no school could accept tuition students, because it's not like the old days pre-Act 173. If we have a tuition student move, we allow to pay just the regular tuition, and then there's some special needs that are required, then our district would be responsible for that, and we can't bill that back to the previous district. But Marlboro had some, and it's called Legacy now. They had some Legacy students, and unfortunately, the student did not attend Marlboro because there was no real school. So they did their remote learning, not really through Marlboro, but now they'd like to come back and finish it off. So it's not that we're allowing a new student in, we're allowing an existing student to kind of return and giving a little break because of COVID. So we just need to make a motion to allow the Legacy student to continue in Marlboro. Doug, did I cover that well enough, or do you want to?
Yeah, the only thing I just want to emphasize is that should COVID not have happened, we wouldn't be discussing this. This person would have been in the school and continuing on, and it was just because, the cost of tuition for, a remote school, or back in August when we didn't know if school was even going to be in session, why do that? So I think that it's just the kind thing to do.
So I would just ask that if somebody besides Doug would make that motion, I would appreciate it.
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Do I have a second to that? Okay, Joe, I'm going to give it to you, even though you didn't unmute yourself. Thank you. Emily was waiting to see if you would do it.
Yeah, I know. I'm watching her too.
I was trying to give it to Joe.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Mark or Joe, do you have any comments on it? The dog does it too.
I need the language on that.
Okay, so the language is to approve the Legacy student to tuition to Marlboro till they finish their career at Marlboro School. You all good, Peter?
Thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, please signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it.
Thanks, everybody.
The ayes have it, so we'll move forward. You're welcome, Doug. Reorganization retreat. Usually we do a reorganizational meeting after the March elections, but unfortunately elections haven't really come well, and we haven't had our elections in West River yet. I'm sorry, in River Valleys yet. Al, I know you've had your elections and some appointments, so what we're gonna do is like we did last year is we're gonna reorganize in June, hopefully that everybody's okay with that. And that we also will have a short retreat, and we had some thoughts from the executive committee meetings about what we could do at that retreat. We used to do that October meeting where we could all, we would do some kind of training. We are required to do some training by statute every year. So we thought Bill could set up some specific stuff for us. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on stuff they would like to see. And Bill, you could send something out, or with the executive committee, we'll come up with an agenda for that retreat. But if anybody who's not on the executive committee can just give us, some feedback on anything you'd like to see or can think of. And then just probably in our next meeting in May, Bill, the first maybe executive committee meeting in May, we'll try to get something out. Is that good with everybody? Okay, elementary school choice reciprocity. This was something I had asked for a while ago. One of the things that Act 46 was never about saving money or about, doing saving money, or, was supposed to increase opportunities for students. And that's what we really try to focus on. And we actually got taken to task quite a bit when we went to the state board, because like with the River Valley, they said, well, we don't see how you're increasing opportunities. And, it was a little difficult. So one of the things I thought is at the SU level, and Emily's been involved with the SU more the first couple of years I was on the school board. I did not go to the Windham Central meetings, but I got to tell you, I think the supervisory union has operated very well with our past couple superintendents. We've had very good superintendents. We've had superior service, with some of the reorganizations. And I thought, maybe something that would really help students and help parents, in the district. And because we're one supervisory union, is, the possibility of allowing inter-district choice within the SU. So it would not open it up to people from Brattleboro or Dummerson, but if a student in Dover wanted to attend Marlboro, they could attend Marlboro. If a student from Newfane wanted to go to Dover, they could. And if a student from, Marlboro wanted to go to Windham, that's something they could do. And, we're kind of a pretty tight-knit community. There's a lot of people in Newfane that work in Dover, and, they may be closer to the Dover school on their way to work than they would be the Newfane school. So it might help parents. It could help for better education, or maybe their siblings or friends that have gone to a school and the child wants to go there. And there is quite a bit of movement, more so in our area from Dover into Wilmington. But there is quite a bit from Dover into Wardsboro. A lot of people stay on that Route 100 corridor. Route 30, the corridor, you guys kind of settled that with the West River group, but maybe we could open that up. There's some people that moved to Newfane or Brookline from this area, and people from there over here. So it's not that I want to make it have a decision on it tonight, but I just wanted to broach it. And if people are good with the idea of maybe having a group look into that and make some recommendations, there are some pitfalls to it, as there is with any kind of plan like this. And there's, there have to be some rules, because, we don't want to open this up and then have all our students out of the Dover building want to go to Newfane, because it obviously would overfill Newfane, and then we'd have this big building in Dover with nothing to do. But it may be helpful if everybody's in agreement, not that you have to agree with the idea that we're going to do it, but the idea that we can do some research and look into it. There have been some other districts that have done this up north. Bill had some paperwork on that when I first started discussing it with them, but then unfortunately COVID came about, so we really never got to bring it up. So I'd like to bring that up, and maybe at our reorganizational meeting, appoint a subgroup, a smaller subgroup to look into it and report back to the board, and maybe look at doing it in a couple years. With Act 173, that really a lot of the big issues with it, with the special education portion of it, that's been taken care of there. So it's really just the elementary portion. And we've had some, we accepted a child that should have been going to West River of a educator in one of our buildings to let their child come, last year because of COVID. So, it may be helpful for some of our staff to keep our staff happy and keep our staff in the building. So if nobody has a problem with that, I'd like to, pick a committee. I'd like us to agree tonight, if we want to put the committee together, to do the committee, and then we'll appoint the committee in June. Are there any thoughts or comments? Mark, you're good with it? Joe?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Al, Doug, or Emily? Allison? Doesn't really affect Stratton, I guess.
We're definitely for choice, so.
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I would agree with everybody. It's the right thing to do. I mean, there's so many situations like you mentioned, Rich, where you have, parents working in one town, and it would just be convenient for them to be able to drop off and pick up in that town. So, yeah, I like the accommodation.
Howie, I know you came off of your name things. Did you have a comment or?
I think it just has to be done. It has to be done carefully, because it can weaken small schools. It can create a lot of problems. If it's, I'm all for human-based education and what is good for the individual kid. But, if it's just an open floodgate and it becomes a free-for-all where every parent is going for shopping around for slots, it can get messy. So I think researching it carefully is a good idea.
So Bill's going to write your name down in his little black book when we appoint the committee, Howie. Emily, you all set, or Doug?
I'll just quick add, I'm all for looking at anything, and would advise some deep dive into it and what the impacts would be for our small schools and our multiple school districts that we have in Windham Central.
Yeah, I guess, Bill, before I let Doug go, or Dan, hi, Dan. Is this something you're going to be able to assist with? Because it's nothing that the whole board is, there's going to need to be some work done in your office. And, I know Al said you were doing some stuff in them, you're doing some stuff for River Valleys. Will you have time to take this on over the?
I think if you give me a longer time frame, I don't think there needs to be a subcommittee at this point. I think what I would suggest is maybe directing the board to investigate some possibilities around this idea and give me till September, because I got River Valley long-term planning, I got West River long-term planning. Allison's going to have new board members. We got Marlboro getting ready to do a bond vote. I think it's a worthwhile pursuit to investigate some other models that have possibly been done. I think Howie is correct. It has to be done. It has to be explored in a way so that we can look at all the ramifications and ripple effects. But I think it is something to be explored. I just would need some more time.
So then your suggestion is we make a motion to direct the superintendent to investigate this and report back to us in September.
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay. Al, I was letting you speak and we interrupted you, sorry. No, was there somebody else who wanted?
No, it was all good.
Okay, sorry, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of echo Howie's comment, but I also feel like, it's hard enough to get our kids to our school because of the rurality. So I can't imagine. I just don't know, if kids are going to travel to Dover, from Marlboro. So, I'm going to leave this to Bill's timeline, I think. And I don't want to stress Bill out too much.
But don't forget, there's a bus that goes from Dover to Marlboro every day. Dan, thank you for joining us, sir. I don't know if you picked up where we're at on the agenda.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I apologize for being late. I'm glad to see everybody. Yeah, carry on, Rich. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So would somebody like to make a motion to direct Bill's office to look into this and bring us back a report? Or Bill, do you need a motion or do we just?
I think you're telling me and I'll bring you back. I'll give you an update of where I am in September.
Okay, so Peter, can you just record that? Is everybody good with that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Got
See,
it.
the head shaking the right way. Howard's shaking his whole body. Peter, you're all set with that?
Yes, research and return in September.
Yes,
Thank you.
the superintendent. So the next one, I'm going to turn over to Mark. Mark asked that to see if the SU would be interested in the legislative review group. So Dan, you showed up just at the right time. We're giving you a pat on the back, but it was virtual, so it was one of these. So Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes. Go ahead and tell us your thoughts and where you want to go.
Sure. So one of the things that I've learned because of pandemic, spent a lot of time watching legislative hearings, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on up there that I think we benefit by at least knowing about, if not having some say in. So I thought it would be beneficial for us to have a small group that just kind of watched the education bills that are coming up and talk about them and decide whether they're things that we should be taking positions on, or at least educating our members on.
Okay, so any comments or thoughts on that? Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea, Mark. I think it's good, and I have an example to support it. You know, we, especially during COVID, like, you know, the YouTube streamings of all the committees has been great. I think it'll be more difficult, should those go away, to stay in touch. But, you know, we had a live example of it sort of last week where I just was tuning in, you know, to check up on something, and they were talking about my district, and they were citing things that weren't true. And we got together a response and are on the cusp of sending that response. So I would love to make sure that we're there just also fact checking things. And even if it's not to provide testimony, but to send an email saying, look, we heard this, and this is the correct you know, way to talk about it, or the information you need. So I'm supportive of this.
Any other comments or thoughts? So, Mark, what was your vision of this? Like maybe a subcommittee, a group of a couple? What were your thoughts on the makeup?
I hadn't quite gotten that far in my thinking. I think we'd probably want a group of 3 or 4 people, because there's enough going on that, and Doug, I don't really envision somebody watching every hearing, as great as that would be. Like you said, we have jobs, but to stay up on what is going on, and if there are issues that we feel are of important to us, then we may watch, but definitely to stay up to date on the documents and bills as they make it through various committees. So I would think a group of 3 or 4 people, probably 4 people.
You know, I've always felt that we're a very fortunate district. If you look at, I don't know, maybe Emily, you know, I don't know if there's another supervisory union in the state that has 3 members in legislature, you know, as part of the supervisory union. And, you know, one, you know, person, you know, every county has at least 2 senators. I believe every county has at least 2 senators. So, you know, but having the senators, you know, so close to us in Putney and Brattleboro, I think make us really fortunate, and I brag about that a lot. And you know, we usually pick on Emily, Laura, and Carolyn, you know, say, hey, tell us what's going on. But I do think a committee would be good. So what I would like to suggest is, Mark, if you can, before the next meeting, so we can get it out, maybe meet with Doug and Dan. I know has been very involved, and he likes the politic a lot too. And maybe put together, you know, what you think the makeup and the charge, and then when we reorganize, we can appoint that committee at that time. And Bill and Peter, would you make sure that's on the agenda, and that it's in the minutes? And then Mark, you know, bring us something that, you know, the 3 of you can all agree on, and then I think unless anybody feels differently. Emily, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, a couple of quick comments. First of all, senators run from 1 to 3 in their districts, but just for clarity. And I don't know what it is. I haven't looked recently what it is that we pay to the VSBA board or the VSBA organization, but I know we pay in dues, and that is one of the things that the VSBA is supposed to do for us. So I'm just going to put that out there, and I'll leave it out there for Dan to respond to, because Dan, I think you're still on that board. And so we paid to have that done, and I have high expectations that that is good work being done for us. Not to say that that supersedes what Mark's suggesting, because I'm not at all opposed to what Mark's suggesting. I just am saying that if we aren't getting what we need from the VSBA, we should be saying we want more. So there's that. And this is typically 5 months out of the year when we're doing the work, and I'm not opposed. I just want to put that out there about the VSBA.
I think both Mark and Dan are VSBA reps. So again,
sorry about that, Mark. I forgot you were too.
But not only are we well represented in the legislature, we're pretty well represented at VSBA too. So, Dan, go ahead.
So my thought on that is, yeah, I did want to make sure, Emily, that you knew that Mark is the other Windham rep to the VSBA.
Just fried brain.
So I think that VSBA has been doing it. I think it comes out once a week. Mark, maybe you know that. It should go to every school board member in the state. Sandra Cameron has been doing it, but I think it's only once a week. And especially if there are important educational issues, I think that it's not quite often enough. So I guess the question would be, do we lobby VSBA to do it twice a week? Or do we go Mark's way of having a small group of people who will say, well, we'll keep track of things if it's important to our constituents on a more than once a week basis?
I guess I think the VSBA does a pretty good job of covering legislation. But we are the Southeast Kingdom has some of its own needs. And I just kind of feel like there are things that the VSBA doesn't pay attention to, doesn't take up because they're not important enough for the entire state in their view. So I think I'd see it, Emily, as kind of a supplement to what they do.
Yeah, and plus one of you guys just have to become president to follow in Emily's footsteps.
That'll be Mark.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Dan, you do pretty good first. Maybe you can be president and vice president. We'll really control the board.
I was president for 3 years, Mark. You can do it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So if nobody else has any other comments or nobody opposes, why don't we move that along? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe. And then Doug.
I just was gonna tell Mark to reach out to me. I track legislation across all 50 states in the state legislatures for my job. And I have software that does that based on keyword searches automatically. So if you go this route, I may be able to help you get daily updates.
I will definitely be in touch with you.
Wow. Nice.
We got that committee almost full for you, Mark. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I think Joe just solved my problem, but I was going to thank Emily for bringing up the VSBA only because they do send those nice legislative sweep emails. And I thought maybe the first task could just be making sure people read those. And then obviously we got to put in every district's name into Joe's little app that he's got running there.
Oh, it's way more than an app.
Does it cook barbecue too?
No, that's me.
Hey, Bill, for the meeting in June, we're going to have a barbecue cook-off between Joe and Doug, I think.
I think you don't want to do that. Make the margaritas.
Oh, So I was gonna say throw Dan in it too. He's probably done some sugaring, so he's probably got some good maple.
We got maple.
I think Doug, we could put Doug in charge of beverages.
I'm wondering what Dan's drinking.
It's a great glass, but it's just water. But it's
Ah.
it's a canning jar with a little handle on it. How about that? Cute, huh?
Cool. That's what they serve at the Westover Inn, their vodka, and that's why I wondered. Hey, Doug,
Yeah.
that's what you were showing us.
Focal banger is so much better than heady topper.
Yeah, focal banger.
Okay, so I think we're all good then, Mark. You guys work together, get Joe involved, and I think we can have a pretty good little subgroup, okay? End of year assessment waiver, Marlboro. So the discussion is WCSU would like to direct the superintendent to submit comment on behalf of the WCSU supporting this waiver request. And that's end of the year assessment waiver for everybody or just for Marlboro, Doug?
No, Marlboro has already submitted their own comment. We had a really great meeting where our teachers, faculty came to us and just said that, they've been doing a lot of work this year in really struggling circumstances during the pandemic. The anticipation was that there would be basically no assessments this year issued, but then the administration changed that. And so, obviously Secretary French is applying for a waiver to just have those scores not count, because at least students in Marlboro were already below the people that are going to be taking this test in terms of percentages. So we just wanted to make the WCSU districts aware that, they could submit their own comment in support of Secretary French's waiver. And then I was also just hoping that the WCSU could submit a full comment together. And I could send you the draft, if you don't already have it, of if this goes through, of what Marlboro sent.
Okay, so Dan, anything else from Marlboro?
No, just complete support for what Doug just said. And I do believe that the entire SU would benefit also from if French is successful in getting this waiver. So I will make a motion that we support Doug's draft if that can be done. I guess we haven't seen the draft yet, but
I think, Doug, we had that at the executive committee level, I believe, when you first brought this up, right?
No, you didn't have that. It wasn't drafted. It was just approved at my last board meeting. So, and I apologize, I didn't send it before this meeting, but I can send it. And the comments, unfortunately, are due the 29th, which is tomorrow. But I can pull it up on screen very briefly. There's basically 4 points.
Why don't you do that, and then that
if you want to come back to me, I'll dig it up real quick.
Okay. Well, why don't we skip over that? We'll come back to that if everybody's okay. I saw a lot of head shaking, so let's come back, and then Doug, if we can put that up, maybe you can email it to Bill, and Bill can get it up on the screen quick. Just so that we keep moving along, guys. We're doing really good. And Howie, you've been very patient. I really appreciate it. You've held that stance so perfectly for so long. And I've wondered why it looks like you're on a boat. I wondered why it wasn't moving.
I'm in my rocking chair, man.
So Howie asked, he called me and asked to bring up a VSBA resolution he would like us to support. And the resolution is, whereas the Vermont School Boards Association provides advice to school boards regarding labor and professional contracts, staffing levels, working conditions, and legislative actions. Therefore, be it resolved that the VSBA shall maintain complete independence from professional associations and labor organizations, including but not limited to the Vermont Superintendents Association, Vermont Principals Association, the NEA, and any other labor or professional organization representing administrators or workers in our schools. Complete independence, in parentheses, shall mean the organization shall not share office space, legal counsel, mailing staff, or officials in any capacity. So Howie, why don't you explain how this came about, why this came about, and why you'd like us to support it?
Yeah, I only bringing this up because I heard a rumor going around that the VSBA is about to buy an office building, partnering with the Vermont Education Association, and share office space with them.
Okay, I always thought the VSBA building was shared with the Superintendent's Association anyways.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, man. That was ironic. It seems to have gone over everybody's head. The Vermont School Boards Association already owns an office building with the Vermont Superintendent's Association. Okay, they already share office space with the Vermont Superintendent's Association. So it doesn't sit right with me. And that's it. And I think it needs to come up before the Vermont School Boards Association. I think it needs to be aired out. I think we're moving into a time of consolidation. The interest of the superintendents and the school boards may not be so closely aligned as office space would indicate coming up. You know, this is stuff that's not going to be hacked away now, but look, we have a governance structure here that's 200 years old. You know, take all the time and trouble for the audit that we go through for this supervisory union and multiply by 55, okay? And then add that to all the independent school districts. Just the money Vermont spends on auditing individual budgets is insane. And so anyway, you start to crack a big rock, you start with a small wedge. And I think it all starts with the Vermont School Boards Association really being an independent voice for school boards. And that's it. There's my piece. So I'd like to see it aired out at the VSBA, and I need the blessings of a board to have that done.
Okay, so is there any comments from anybody? Any support, any questions, any non-support reasons?
Rich, let me chime in here. And Howie, you probably know that I am not held in really high esteem by the VSBA because I'm always willing to stick my neck out and make myself unpopular there. But I have to say, I don't think I could support this resolution. I believe that there's more of a sense of independence than you might think. Yes, they share office or they share building space, but I do not believe that they share, you know, the people who work for VSBA don't work for the Superintendent's Association, et cetera. So I guess I feel like there's probably more independence than it would appear just from the fact that they are in the same building. So I don't know, Mark, what's your sense about that?
That's my general sense. And I believe there are maybe two other organizations that are partners in that building, VSBA and Emily, you?
VPA and VSBA and VSA, and they have one other office space that's available. I'm not sure who's in that right now.
So
and Emily, I believe the reason they did that was they wanted something close to the State House. So like if the VSBA administrator was asked to testify, she wouldn't have to drive from like Burlington or something. And what made sense because neither organization needed that space. Was that, or was there some, I remember you telling me about it a long time ago on a ride up there. Was that the reason, or do you?
Yeah, I think in general, that was the reason. I mean, I think they needed a new space. This space became available. It's very expensive to have space in Montpelier, and this was a collaboration of everyone working together. Over the years, there's needed to be some work done on the building, and everybody pitched in to get new windows put in and things like that. So there's been quite a bit of investment across organizations. And in my experience, having been on the VSBA board for many years, and I totally understand where Howie's coming from and the perception of this, but in my experience, it really has been independent organizations under the same roof in separate, in the same building in separate offices, who are able to collaborate when need be, and they've been able to share a large conference room, which would be hard. It's a conference room that can be broken into two, so they each have a half, unless the VSBA board is there, which is a huge board, which needs both parts of the conference room. So it's been a partnership, I think, is what I would say. And I agree with Dan and Mark. I would be uncomfortable about trying to separate them because I think it would cost an awful lot of money.
Yeah, you should have seen the look on your faces though when I said you were going to partner with the Vermont Education Association.
Big
That was good,
supporter of
Howie.
Vermont education.
You know,
We'll
but
give you that one, Howie.
I think Howie's made some good points though. And Dan, if we decide not to, would you two be willing to just express that there's some concern from some of our board members down here of, and you know, maybe again, I'm doing something with the sewer district over here in Dover, and I've said, you know, like myself included, especially in my business, you know, a lot of times we're poor communicators. So sometimes, you know, people know things, but nobody else knows it. You know, like Emily has a little piece of the pie and you and Mark have a piece, but bringing it all together. So maybe they could do a better job of explaining their relationships, and then maybe Howie wouldn't care about it as much. You know, it may explain some of his stuff. Go ahead, Emily.
I was just going to say, I don't think it would hurt to ask about cost. I mean, honestly, it's not, I'm not opposing Howie's concerns. What I'm trying to say is that we pay dues and we value the relationship we have in many different ways with those organizations. And I think that it's a pretty reasonable setup that they have right now. And so I think it'd be smart for Dan and Mark to say, give us a financial assessment as well as, you know, expressing the concerns that Howie has shared with us.
So I have a suggestion, Rich, as a way to proceed here. And I throw it back to you, Howie. If you want to make that motion, it sounds like it might not pass here, but Mark and I'm going to speak for you, Mark, will definitely take your motion to VSBA and ask for both what Emily's talking about and just express your concern. Would you rather have the motion come to WCSU and not pass, or would you simply like for Mark and I to bring it to the VSBA board and say, here's a concern from our supervisory union?
Well, so Dan, I was going to do a little, Howie, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So instead of, we still have time because resolutions don't have to be done till over the summer to be presented next fall to the, so if Howie, if you're okay, let's get some answers to some of these questions. And if you have any other thoughts, why don't you send them to Dan and Mark and let them go to the VSBA, the next board meeting, bring these up and bring us some answers. And then we'll put this on the next agenda and discuss it again at the reorganizational meeting. And then if you want, or do you have a meeting between now and then, Mark, or not?
Yeah, we have a meeting, but I'm gonna go to the website and double check. I think resolutions are due June 15th.
Oh,
Usually July, but,
Yeah,
but it could change.
I could be, I'm gonna go double check right now.
So why don't we do it this way, Howie? I'll be in touch with VSBA tomorrow and tell them this concern and ask for a breakdown of how much they think it would cost if it were to be separate, or however they want to break it down. We don't need to wait for a meeting to bring this before them. I'm happy to do that.
Sure. You know, I mean, if the market is so good, maybe you could, the VSBA can rent out its space to another worthy professional organization and get its own office and just collect the money. But I think it's important that the VSBA be independent.
Well, let me get the money part, and I doubt that it will take more than a couple of days to do that. And then we will have that information next time this board meets.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
well, hold it, Howie, just real quick. And Dan, it's more than just sharing space too. It's because he talks about the NEA and the Principals Association. And so is it more than that? Or is it just being in the same building, Howard, that you'd like to see?
Well, I mean, it's also things like sharing legal counsel, sharing officers. I'm not sure currently how much of that's going on at the moment, but all of it would, if any of it's going on, it would be inappropriate. If none of it's going on, awesome. Then it's just a statement of policy.
Yeah, so Dan, if you could, kind of express, it's more than just the building, but find out, maybe, again, like I said, we're four communicators, maybe there isn't any sharing going on, or maybe there is, and, we don't know about it. Maybe it's good to ask that question. And maybe we'll find out something that we all don't know. Go ahead, Mark.
So it is June 15th, the deadline. I happen to be on the finance committee, and we happen to have met this morning, and I happen to have asked a question along those lines in regards to their line item it's not rent, but the facility, and there's no staff that is shared amongst the groups. They share a copier, and they've got to put a code in so that they know who's making copies. And the organization that owns the property is owned by the various entities, but it's not that each entity owns a piece. They own a piece of the company that owns it. Now I understand that may be picking at whatever the word is. But it was a concern of mine that I expressed to them today, and this came up maybe a year ago also. I believe a year, and Dan did bring it up to the board at the time, and I don't remember what it was in regards to, but I agree with Dan. I think we absolutely can and should bring it up, and it is a communication problem. There's no question about it.
So Dan, maybe you can come to the first executive committee meeting in May. It's a Thursday mornings at 9, and we'll get you on first, and you can just let us know. And if we feel it's something that we should push, then we can ask for a special meeting. But let's see. And Howie, we'll let you know. And Dan and Mark, and again, I hope you don't feel like we're pushing you off. But
no, I mean, I appreciate you hearing me out. In fact, you reached out to me. I brought this up a year ago, and I'd forgotten about it. And you sent me the email, and it reminded me, yeah, this is something that I had, I tried to push through last year at the last minute. Let's see what can happen this year with a head start.
Yeah, and I apologize. I could not get into my WCSU emails, and Meg at the central office is much smarter than me. And she got me all set up, so now I can actually read WCSU emails. And that's why you sent it. That's why I'd never seen it. That's why I responded to you a year later. I'm very sorry about that. So I'm gonna, Howie, thank you. I'm appreciate you putting up with us all night. I'm gonna get going so we can get back.
All right. Yeah, get your meeting over, man. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you. Doug, are you ready to move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to quickly share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can't.
Can you send it? Does Bill have?
I sent it to Bill, but I just wanted to show everybody the 3 pages. There we go. So essentially the first section of the letter, and again, this commentary is on Secretary French's, I think, and then he's going to submit, but it informs his comments, which are essentially backing them. But we go a little step further. And essentially he says basically the impact COVID has had on vulnerable communities is important to waive results, and devoting attention and efforts to expanding in-person learning is priority in as opposed to sort of testing right now. So, and Marbo just sort of backs that up and says, the requirements and recommendations, it's been difficult enough to have our children in seats, students in seats, as opposed to testing them, for one. And then secondarily, we are already gathering the data we need and the local common assessment systems, the LCAS, as well as in the personalized assessments that we're doing, that I think are going to give us more data on how kids are being impacted by COVID than anywhere else, than a state Common Core test is going to give us, especially during this time. And then we also have small data pools, which are simply, we have about 40% of folks opting out. So it's kind of going to be useless for us in a way, if you're going to look at trends. And then the fourth is the loss of instructional time. So we're going to lose instructional time for teachers to prep. And then additionally, because of space requirements, we are likely going to we would have to move people out of the classroom and maybe give people a day off, and then have the teachers gather and go over the scores. So for the end of the year to be mired like this when people, faculty's spent and just trying to get through the year just seems ridiculous. So I know that they have to administer the test. Secretary French cannot just say we're not going to do the test because that's Title I funding, but we can just give them the feedback that it's going to be useless and that people are opting out. So I just encourage you all, if you've talked to your principals and he or she's gotten opt-out letters, that's even worthy to share with them as they put this waiver forward.
So, because it's going to be in tomorrow, do people feel comfortable voting on this tonight? We didn't have it before the meeting. And can we make sure Peter has a copy of it to add it to the minutes, Bill?
Again, this is Marlboro's letter, and I'm just giving you the information to give Bill the directive to file comment on behalf of the WCSU. He doesn't have to use this. You guys just need to know the background of that. So that Marlboro's is submitted and it's off. That's gone. So
I screenshot it. I can be general.
Okay. Go ahead, Emily.
Can I ask Bill to comment on this, what his feedback is?
Well, Doug said it, that Secretary French doesn't have a choice. So I'm more than happy to take the directive and make a comment. I asked Secretary French in my Thursday calls whether it made a difference if superintendents in particular gave comments. He said, sure, it's always beneficial when we submit a waiver that we have public comment. So I am more than happy to take this directive. Mine will be brief. It will not be 2 pages. It will be bullet points. And, Marlboro is very eloquent, but their points are all very valid. So if the board wants me to simply send a comment on behalf of the WCSU board, I would use a lot of the points that Marlboro has made because they all make sense.
So Bill, would it make sense if we did a motion to ask you to do that? So then you can also say, not only do I feel this way, but my super board at their meeting voted to instruct me to.
I think it's much more powerful if I am directed as the superintendent from a vote from the board to make the comment. I think Doug's got the motion laid out right there.
Yeah. So would somebody like to make that a motion?
I'll go ahead. Okay. I'll go ahead. Is it me, Rich? Am I the one?
Yeah, you're doing it.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion that the Windham Central Supervisory Union directs Bill Anton to submit a letter to Secretary French in support of Secretary French's request for a waiver.
No, not a letter, Ben. We got a comment.
A comment. No, okay, a bullet points. Okay, a comment in support of Secretary French's request for a waiver from testing.
So, Peter, you got that?
Yeah, I'll make it nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you can come up with the actual name of the test, that'd be good. I can't. Doug will know it, but I've.
SBAC.
SBAC. Yeah. Yep.
And we could make a declaration instead of a letter, Bill, if you. I'll second it. Is it weird if I second it because Marlboro made it? Maybe somebody.
Mark actually has his hand up. Mark is next in line. So go ahead, Mark.
I second, and I have a question.
Okay. So we have a motion second. Dan, you get to speak first to it.
Oh, I think you all know. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
So I just want to make sure I understand it better. Is the secretary requesting a waiver to test or just to have the test scores count?
Not count.
Yeah, have them not count.
Yeah, well, he can't say I think Secretary French is taking it as far as he possibly can. And if he probably could say, I don't want to do this, he would say that, but he can't say that. So I think that we just need to support him fully, but we could be the ones saying we should probably not even be giving these things this year.
No, so Mark, you're right. And Peter, you were going to make my motion nice. Maybe you can make it say, we support Secretary French's request that the SBAC results not be used for assessment purposes this year.
Yeah, or I could just say convey the sentiments in the agenda.
Mm-hmm. But Mark is right. It's
Written
not,
out clearly.
we're not saying that there won't be, Secretary French is not requesting that there be no tests. He's requesting a waiver that those tests be used for assessment purposes.
That they not be used for assessment.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mark, are you okay with that?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Thank
does that
you. Thank
answer
you
your
for clarifying.
question?
It does, yes.
Okay, are there any other questions? Doug, you all set?
I'm set.
Okay, if you're all ready to vote, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Mark, we're running a little behind now, so can
Thanks,
you
everybody.
waiting study coalition motion out there for us?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. We're requesting that the WCSU approve this resolution motion. Therefore, be it resolved, the Windham Central Supervisory Union hereby joins with other Vermont school boards to advocate to the Vermont legislature for the adoption of the recommendations of the Vermont Pupil Weighting Factors Report. And then it gives the specific act. We are not, by doing this, we are not committing to any financial support. Some boards have committed some financial support, anything from, I believe Marlboro was 500, and I think a couple of them have done 1,500. But the coalition, which is on the cusp of being incorporated as a nonprofit, we need numbers, and we're doing good. We're getting about one new board on almost every week at this point, but we'd really like to have the WCSU on board.
So are you making that a motion?
I absolutely am making that a motion.
Okay, do we have a second from somebody?
I'll second it. This is Dan. Yep.
I'm gonna give it to Dan if you don't mind, Doug.
Not a problem.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. It's Peter, it's written right in the agenda. That's exactly
Move
it.
the resolution.
Yeah,
Got it.
therefore be it resolved. So Mark and Dan, anything else to add? You guys made the motion, seconded it, made the second.
I'll just add, and I don't know whether it makes any difference, but I have been asked and I have accepted the position of executive director for the organization.
If you've been that, I don't know if it was appropriate to make the motion.
We're not an organization yet, but
Okay. Okay. Any comments or questions?
His hand up.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I know Allison's hiding on her phone, but I just, I want to be respectful of Stratton. So I think, Allison, if you have to vote no, I would see and understand that. So.
Thank you. And I'm not trying to hide. I just have terrible signal. My
Oh,
nephew
that's
is
okay.
here
No,
from
everybody does.
college, and he is sucking up all the broadband or whatever.
Yeah, that's what they all say when they're throwing darts at us behind our backs. Okay, so I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion from anybody?
Just letting you know I'm going to abstain from this.
Okay, thank you, Emily. So all those in favor, please, actually, you know what? Because we're gonna have an abstention anyways, I gotta do a roll call vote if it's not all unanimous, so thank you, Emily. All those in favor, so I'm gonna call on you, we're gonna do a roll call vote, you're either in favor, you're against, or you're abstaining, okay? I'm gonna go around my clock here, so Joe, I'm gonna start with you.
Aye. In favor.
And Peter, we need to record how each person votes,
sir.
okay? Okay, so Joe is an aye. Doug?
Hi.
Thank you, Doug. Al?
Aye.
Okay, well, you don't get to vote. Mark?
Aye.
Emily?
Abstain.
Dan?
Aye.
Allison?
No.
Okay, so it appears as though the ayes have it. The chair will not vote, so the chair's vote will go with the majority, which are the ayes, so the motion passes.
Can I just say something, if that's okay?
Oh, yeah, but it should have been before we voted.
Oh, no, it wasn't really about that. It's just to you
Oh.
folks that it's almost a little premature because we haven't had a town meeting where we're able to speak on this. So the nay that I'm coming from and bringing to the table here is based on all the stuff over the past year. We haven't been able to, explain stuff to folks this year yet. So I apologize if that's holding anybody up, but I obviously have to go with what everybody has said in the past.
No, and that's one of the things we've realized, especially, with our legislators and everybody else. I mean, look at the district Emily represents, and Laura, and it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other, so it's never an easy thing, Allison. And I think that's why Doug made that comment, because we've had that discussion in the executive committee. So we really respect that, and nobody's upset however you vote. I mean, the nice thing about this group has always been, like Dan said, Dan and I could go at it and argue with each other at a meeting, and then we can walk over and go get a beer somewhere. So it's,
Not anymore, but you can Zoom a beer, I guess.
there you go. I can give the artificial pat on the back. So let's get moving, guys, because we got a few more things. Activate the WCSU policy committee. So we've had a policy committee in the past. We actually appoint a policy committee every year when we organize. But we really haven't had them do anything. So Bill has requested that the policy committee get together. Bill, do you have a list of who's on it? Or is it?
So since we're going to reorganize in June, I have no clue who's on the policy committee. My suggestion would be that after reorganization, we activate the policy committee and begin the look at the bylaws, because those are really the things that we need to get so that we can get those ready for September. But and I know you and I put this on the agenda, but now that I think about it, when we reorganize, I'd really like to be upfront that, look, the policy committee is going to be active and ready to roll, and Mark Schaber absolutely has to be on it.
Okay, so why don't we do this then? One of the things that Bill and I talked, because we try to get together before we do an agenda for a meeting, is I noticed the bylaws for the board haven't been updated since 2013. And Emily, I know you, and I believe Dan, you were there. I mean, we spent a lot of time working on the board bylaws and also what the executive committee could do, because we had such a hard time getting a board together. And, it was going really good, but now, we're just at the right number. So imagine if we had a 30-member board, we wouldn't have been able to have a meeting. So I think that's really important. So what I'd really like to do too is on the next meeting, Peter, is we're going to have a brief discussion about the bylaws. And Bill, why don't we make sure we get them out to everybody, so people have comments, they can give it to the group, and we'll vote in a policy committee and move that forward. Is that good with everybody? And any comments or thoughts? Or
Rich, I'd just say we had, I'm assuming I'm not behind the curve here, but we've had bylaws for the board and for the executive committee. So there are two separate sets of bylaws, and I just wanted to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, so the bylaws for the supervisory board were approved on March 27, 2013, and that's just one page. And then we have an addendum that was approved at the same time, and that's 3 pages, I believe. Well, I lied to you. It's more like 4 pages. And then we have executive committee bylaws, and these are dated the same date, and they're like a page and a couple lines. So that's why I think it'd be good, Bill, get them out early so people can look at them. So if you guys are all set, then Emily, you good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we do have 2 policies, and Bill, you submitted these with the packets.
Yep.
And the first one is F23, capitalization of assets. So what we need to do is we need to make a motion to warn this so it can be posted. And then we can vote on it at the reorganizational meeting, because it's supposed to be posted for 14 days. So is there somebody who'd like to move that onto the floor for me?
I'm happy to make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Is there a second? Mark, you were waving your hand. Okay, so Mark will second that. F23, capitalization of assets. We're voting to warn it and post it. Emily or Mark, you have any comments on it?
Not me, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, you all ready to vote? Hearing no objections, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. So Bill, that's can be posted. Voted to warn. The second one is policy D4, Title I comparability. We need a motion if someone would move that to the floor to warn so it can be posted.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Mark moves it. Who seconds it, Doug? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Doug or Mark, do you guys want to make any comments on it? No? Anybody, any questions, comments, thoughts?
All right, who seconded?
Doug did from. Okay, hearing nobody having any comments. If you're ready to vote, all those in favor, please signify so by saying aye.
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 It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. So you've got two to post, Bill. Thank you. The next thing we have is an executive session for superintendent evaluation. So Peter and Rich, we got to boot you out, Jedi Knight Rich. I love his picture. And Bill, I need you to just stay for 1 minute, okay?
Okay, I'm gonna make Joe the host and I'll stay for 1 minute so he can control everything.
Okay.
You want me to come back?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
But we'll get right back to y'all. Rich, we'll be right back with you, buddy.
Got to move in a second?
Oh, motion in a second for moving executive session for employee evaluation.
Moved.
Okay, Mark moved down, seconded. Is there any discussion? It's I have 9:09 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who seconded? That was RTD2.
That was me, Emily.
Thank you.
Rich, I apologize, Rich. I'm going to take off. I think Doug has got Marlboro covered well on this here, and I thank you all, and I apologize for coming late, leaving early.
No problem, buddy. Thank you for good to see you. Hopefully everybody survived well the winter in Marlboro.
So far.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Allison, we got to get rid of Rich and Peter.
Can I put them in the waiting?
Yeah.
If I put them in the waiting room, then they can come back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm putting you in the waiting room, guys.
Okay, so by unanimous consent at 9, we came out of executive session. The members will review the paperwork and submit any comments they have to the board chair, and that'll be shared with the superintendent at a later date. So there was no decisions made, and it's just more paperwork for us to do. So barring any other things that I missed, I believe we are looking for that magic motion.
There was a cough overrode the time and the beginning.
9:20. So at 9:21, by unanimous consent, we came out of executive session. And the members will review the documents submitted in executive session and get any comments to the board chair by the end of the week. No decisions were made. And we're waiting for a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Doug moved to adjourn. Mark or Joe seconded it. Guys, it was a little late meeting, but we got a lot of conflicts and it's been a long time. We'll see some of you guys tomorrow to Emily and Al and Doug, hopefully, and hopefully Beth and Allison, you too. So thank you, folks. All those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Have a great
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good.